Well, hey everybody, I think I found the issue with this engine. I mean, everything's fine from here up or here down, but there's just something going on right in this little area right here. Not so much down here or up here, but right there. And as you can see, whenever that rod came apart, it raised the top center of that block. And there you go. It cracked this big chunk here out, knocked that big piece there out. But it hit the top of that block pretty hard. Now, here's your tech tip. When you pull a gas tank off of one of these things, if you don't want gas everywhere, take a pair of needle nose pliers and a zip tie. Pinch the gas line off with needle nose and throw you a zip tie on there, and then you don't have to buy one of those fancy little clip things you snatch on there and block off your fuel lines. And the reason why I use needle nose, I come back here after the textured teeth on them to that flat area, and I clamp it right there, and we don't lose fuel, and I don't tear up my fuel line. Anyway, we're going to drain the oil out of this thing. And see just how glittery it is. I've got a set of Allen wrenches under the back end of this engine to raise it up. Of course, there might be big chunks come out of this too. Ugh. Look how thick that oil is. That's brand new oil. And it's like glittery. I mean, that oil that was in this engine had about 15 minutes on it. And just look how glittery and goop. They want a chunk. Look at that goop coming out of there. Wow. I thought about running it through a coffee filter to see what all was in that, but I don't think a coffee filter would strain that. That is bad. That's almost like a metallic metal flake or whatever glitter gray spray paint is what it looks like. That's bad. Now we're going to let this sit here and drain for a little while. And then we'll see about taking this thing apart. Alright, let's go ahead and pull this thing apart now that it's drained for a while. See what we can get. Let's see. Yeah, it's reverse. Let me put that on an oil pad there. Yeah, just as I thought, bearing housing blew up. Look at that. I mean, that thing just flat exploded. Ah, there's your culprit. Screw stripped out. They over torqued the rod when they put this engine together, and they stripped the holes. And when they stripped those holes, it wouldn't hold tight enough. And with the engine running at higher RPMs, the cap come off and it blew it right through the top of the engine. Yeah, they over torqued the rod. I mean, shoot, I'm dropping everything. Where'd that bolt go? There it is. Yeah. See, there's the bolt hole this goes in. And they over torqued it. And they gacked the threads up in it. They way over tightened it. And that's what caused the engine to blow up. Okay. Let's see if the cam's any good. Check the cam weight for the timing advance. Yeah, that's still good. There's nothing wrong with the cam gears. And I'll have to check that with a straight edge, but it doesn't look like the cam gear's warped. Bearing facing's good. Lobes are good. Yeah, that cam should be alright. We're going to go ahead and bag that cam. Let me get some cloths here, or rags, or whatever. We're going to bag that cam. That's a good camshaft. Lifters are probably good too, so we'll bag them. No. Well, yeah, no, that for a second there, that lifter looked like it was bent, but it's not. Alright, that lifter's good too. Now, let's see, we need an 8mm. Should have had my 8mm out. There we go. I know I shouldn't be using a hammer on that. I should be using a mallet. Valves look good. Alright, now we need a 12mm to pull the head. 8, 9, 10, 12. There we go. 12mm fits the head bolts perfect. If you use a 13 or a ½ inch, you take a chance on stripping them. There's that 10 thousandths head gasket. The other rod dropped down in the engine. There we go. These are both stainless rods, and they're straight. There's no scarring in the cylinder. Yeah, it was just a failure on that being over torqued. I wonder if the piston's any good. Let's find out if I can push it out or not. It's really hard to push them out without the rod being on it. Come on. Darn it. That's not going to be easy to remove. If I'm careful, I could probably salvage this side cover gasket. This thing was brand new. Get it off of that there. Look at that. We got a side cover gasket we can use on the new engine. Pull those 2 dowel pins. Those things are worth their weight in gold there. That piston just don't want to come out. It's alright, we can push it out from the bottom later. There we go. Get all those chunks in the bottom of that pan there. And then the oil is just glitter. Alright, we just got a couple more salvageable parts we could take off of this engine. I'm not going to reuse this crank. Instead, I've got that other engine that has the bad bearing in it that cracked. And I'm going to use this as my mock-up block and put the side cover and everything back on this. But I'm going to pull the bearings out of this that I need for that other engine. And I'll use this to mock up motor mounts and things like that. And take that other engine that has the cracked bearings and I'll throw it together. So with the parts I'm salvaging out of this, I'm actually going to be able to make 2 engines out of one blown engine with the parts that I needed for the other 2. So this is going to work out great. Thanks, Brad. You get me 2 engines instead of 1. I ain't worried about it. And that's what bradification right there looks like. That's the rod, or what I could find of it. Yeah. But yeah, they over torqued it. You see the threads are just gacked right out of it. The threads in there are just stripped. And the rod itself is stiff right here. So I'd say that pin that goes through that piston is bent. You can see the piston skirt. It's got a little bit of scoring on it, but not bad. Rings are still good. Piston's still good. The skirt's not damaged or bent or warped. And you can see just how much runtime that piston had. I mean, it's pretty clean. Yep, bradification. Nah, it wasn't Brad's fault. They over torqued that rod. That's what I was thinking, is that rod cap was just over torqued and they started gacking the threads on it. Anyway, there's my donor block I've got. It's also a Hemi, because you can't put non-Hemi parts on a Hemi. They won't fit. You can't get the head to fit. It won't work. So we're going to rip this one apart, and we're going to check the rod and everything, and put it back together, throw the valve springs and the head and everything on it, and we'll have it running. And I need to rip it apart anyway because it's got an oil leak. Alright, well, I've already checked to see if this donor block has any oil in it, and it does not. Let's see. It's the 8 mil. Let's move this cover here and coil out of the way there. And we need our 10 mil. Wow. Are you kidding me? Holy moly. Yeah, I'm glad I'm taking this apart. That's way over torqued. Wow. Yeah, cam wasn't seated in properly. Goodness. Alright, let's pull the head off of this. Go back to our 12 mil. This head's not going to go on. Are you kidding me? Wow, they should not be that tight. Those bolts I'm throwing off to the side because they're no good. They've been stretched. Come on, there we go. Alright, let's check the cylinder. This engine's never been started up. There's no marks or nothing in the cylinder. No wear of any kind. It still has the crosshatch pattern. in the bore. So this engine is basically brand new. Yeah, if it has been ran, it hadn't been ran but just a couple of minutes. There's no ring ridge. Perfect, beautiful crosshatch pattern in that cylinder. Alright, scrap that, and my 10 mil. And we're just going to check this rod. Okay, that one moved a little bit. And that one moved just a little bit. Okay, so that should not be over torqued. I need to check this cam because it was not seated in that engine correctly. So we'll rotate it around, line up my timing marks, take my wrench off the magnet. Go ahead and pull that cam. Okay, the balance weight's good. I don't see any damage to the cam gears. Bearing faces are good. And the lobes are good. Okay. So we can push those lifters back up in there. Reclock the timing on that cam. Oh, I need paper towels. Clean this gasket surface off a little bit. Bearings are good. Gasket, not so much. So we'll go ahead and throw a new gasket in there. He over torqued it and ruined that gasket. Whoever had this engine apart to remove the governor way over torqued this thing. But we've got donor parts. Alright, I'm going to pause while I clean this gasket off so we can get ready for a new gasket. Alright, we got our cover cleaned off. Make sure the cam gear is timed right. Got our new gasket set on there. Right there. Whoa. I just love dropping bolts. Have the right size socket. There we go. Check our rotation. Rotating smooth. Oh, cool. The flywheel bolt's loose. So go ahead and lock that now. I'll wait on that. Go ahead and install our new head here. Get our 2 dowel pins, 10 thousandths gasket. Make sure I grab the right head bolt there. Pull this flange here off. That's a 13. That'll work. Come on. Come on. Oh, I see the socket's not going down on it. Take our paper towel, stuff it down in the head, pop the E-clips off, come on, there we go. Left side, right side, and we got our 2 push rods. You guys have seen me do this before. There ain't no sense in me letting you sit here and stare at me doing the same video twice. So we'll pause it while I put that part together. Well, alright, the valve lash is done, carburetor's installed. The head already had the 18-pound valve springs on it, but we don't have a coil. We're going to take us a post-it note, fold it in half again. Gonna grab us another one, fold that in half, fold that in half again. We'll set our cover out of the way. Put our 2 post-it notes that we've double folded in between the coil and the flywheel. And we'll put our coil bolts in. Push it up against the flywheel, and we'll bring them down and snug them up like that. Get our Bosch Platinum E3 race plug. That's E3.111 race plug. You can see the bottom of it. It doesn't have your standard electrode on it. Don't have to hoss it down. Bring it down to where it's snug and then give it about 1/8 of a turn, and that's it. That's all you need. We're gonna route our wire back up and around and over. Go ahead and put the plug wire on. Set our side cover into place. We got so many bolts laying over here, it's ridiculous at this point. Alright, there's 2 of the side cover bolts. Take our ground wire for our kill switch. Put the bolt through it, put that bolt in the cover. Try to locate our other 2 bolts. See, I usually have a little magnetic dish that I use to put my bolts in the shop, and I don't have it with me here. We'll put our 2 bottom bolts in. Oh, come on. Now we'll switch over to our 8mm socket. Alright, now we just got the valve cover to put back on. I think I threw the bolts. Yeah, I threw them down in there. It's kind of a dumb move, wasn't it? Threw my valve cover bolts in a bag. And there it is. See, this is variable speed too. You don't have to go full bore trigger. You can go slow. You can go wide open. That's that little $39 Hyper Tough I picked up at Walmart. I've had it for a few months. I'm telling you what, that is one heck of a inexpensive impact driver. You guys don't have one. You see how much time it saved me taking this engine apart. If I didn't have that, I'd still be taking it apart, and I would not be done with this engine now. I mean, this thing's done. It's ready to put the gas tank back on. Oh yeah, the clutch. You can put the clutch back on. Oops. Switch back over to the 1/2 inch. Now I just got a couple of Allen bolts to tighten up that are the set screws for that clutch, and it's ready to go. Well, put the exhaust on in the fuel tank and then drop it back on the engine and put the slide for the carburetor back in, and it's ready to run again. Alrighty, we'll see y'all later.